Greetings and welcome to week 7 of EDU 625, Professional Development in the Learning Community. I'm John Thomsen and I am your instructor for this course. I hope it's going well for you. Let's get into the presentation. In week 7, we're going to be taking a look at refining the interactive model of professional development program and roadblocks to school improvement. Key questions include: why is refining and improving the essential components of an interactive model professional development program integral to your immediate and future success as a leader? Secondly, why is it essential for leaders to anticipate and eliminate roadblocks in order to foster innovation, improvement, and/or change? Third, what structures are necessary in order for a PLC to thrive? And finally, what traits or characteristics should adults possess in order to add value to PLC? So these are the 4 questions that weave in out of week 7's readings and learnings. Hope you enjoy it. Let's move forward. This should look familiar to you. This is my working definition of a PLC. Educators committed to working collaboratively in ongoing process of collective inquiry and action research to better achieve better results for students they serve. Again, continue to work on your working definition of a PLC because that should guide your work now and into the future. Spend a little time on PI 34, and PI 34 is the state statute that directs how teachers go from initial educator to professional educator in the state of Wisconsin. And although not all the people in this course may be engaged in the state of Wisconsin, it's quite an interesting process for completing, getting your certification as a professional educator. And so PI 34 spells out the Professional Development Plan, the PDP. The PDP has 4 main steps: reflection, writing the plan, annual review of the plan, and documentation of the completed plan. Typically takes anywhere from 2 to 5 years. There's some flexibility there based upon the sense of urgency. It's really not designed as something to be rushed, but really allows the initial educator to get a really good lay of the land in their new school, help them understand some of the past achievement results, the local context, set some goals in areas of opportunity, spell out some really specific steps to address their learning and help achieve those goals, monitor data, and then write up some type of summary demonstrating growth. When writing the plan, 5 components include description of school and teaching, administrative or pupil services situation. So teachers, administrators, and directors of pupil services also have to engage in a PDP, and the first step is to write a description of the school and that particular role. Description of the goal or goals to be addressed within your PDP. The rationale for the goals, that's really important. Help any reader understand why this goal area is important for the local context from which you're serving. The specific plan for addressing and documentation of those goals, very action plan oriented. The plan to meet the goals, objectives, activities, timelines, and collaboration. So all of those things are components of the PI 34 professional development plan. Again, if you're in Wisconsin attempting to secure an initial teacher's license and then transitioning from that to professional educator, this is the process you now have to go through. And so it's important that we start thinking about what PI 34 means and how that impacts all the other things that we're learning in this course. So how can PI 34, the PLC tenets, and Caffarella's theory connect? Well, you could view these as 3 distinct and separate areas to work on. PLC practices, the 4 PLC questions, what's our mission, vision, values, what's our collective commitment, collective efficacy around student learning. You could spend all your time in the PLC sphere, or you could spend all your time in the Caffarella sphere. How do adults purposefully plan for adult learning of others to ensure schools improve over time and the teachers gain the skills, knowledge, and concepts they need in order to help all students be successful? Or, you could spend all your time in PI 34, which is basically wrapping your head around a lot of the same things from PLC and Caffarella. But really, you don't want to be in three separate spheres. Ideally, what you want to do is have these three spheres kind of overlap each other, and where the three of those overlap, spend the majority of your area, because that's where the most leverage is. So keep thinking about the PLC tenets, the Caffarella design tenets, and the new ideas just introduced under PI 34 all focus on how can we collectively work together so that student outcomes improve over time. I want to spend a little time this week introducing you to the accreditation process, and one of the accreditation bodies. The largest international accreditation body is known as Advanced Ed, and the accreditation process involves schools and districts working closely to a set of research-based standards in 5 distinct areas with indicators under 5 areas, just to make sure that they're attending to the things that high-performing schools attend to. Standard 1 deals with purpose and direction. Is there clear purpose, mission, vision, values, and direction within the organization? Standard 2 deals with governance and leadership. What type of governance body oversees the school or district? What type of leadership is there? Is there good alliance? Is there good alignment and coherence? Are there good policies and practices? What's the role of the governing body? What's the role of administrator? What's the role of lead teachers, etc.? So there's indicators underneath Standard 1, there's indicators underneath Standard 2. Standard 3 deals with teaching and assessing for learning. There are indicators under Standard 3 that begin to delineate the best practices in the area of teaching and assessment for learning. The 4th standard is resources and support systems. Is your school or your district aligning their resources behind their goals and priorities? Are there support systems for new teachers, experienced teachers, and students to ensure that all are learning and growing over time? And the last one is how does the school or the district use results for continuous improvement, either through short cycle assessments or regular trend data analysis? And what other practices of continuous improvement are utilized to ensure the system or the school is growing over time? I am a big advocate for the accreditation process. I am a firm believer in establishing internal measures of accountability. Internal stakeholders set goals, determine opportunity, determine the triangulation of data within the system, to make sure that you're growing in areas of opportunity and need and desire. But it's also important for external reviewers of an accreditation body to come in and visit your school to see that there's strong purpose and direction, that there's appropriate governance and leadership, best practices being utilized in the area of teaching and assessing for learning. The school and the district is set up purposefully to redirect resources towards students who need additional support, and those students who already know what we want them to learn. And whether those support systems are academically based, socially based, emotionally based, what have you, those support systems are in place. And then that the school and the district is engaged in the process of continuous improvement. It's one thing for the internal stakeholders to self-assess themselves, but an organization like Advanced Ed will come in, they'll send in a team, and they'll review all of these areas and provide you timely feedback, identify areas of strength, as well as opportunities for improvement over time. So this week we're going to send you to the Advanced Ed website to have you look at that a little bit, and then in week 8 really share the standards and the specific indicators under each standard to help you realize the importance of systemic continuous improvement over time. So, kind of the same question, how can school accreditation, PLC tenets, and Caffarella theory connect? Well, we could look at them as 3 separate and distinct spheres not connected to each other. But when you look closely, there's great opportunity to have these spheres come together. Because when you take a look at systemic improvement, when you take a look at PLC tenets, guiding principles, and Caffarella's intentional design, intentional practices to ensure all students learn, you want those three spheres to overlap as much as possible. Otherwise, you're going to end up being fragmented. And I tell you what, students don't like fragmentation. External stakeholders don't like fragmentation. And certainly schools and districts can't afford fragmentation. So really aligning the PLC tenets with Caffarella's tenets and school accreditation, in my opinion, can best help the system and the school move forward. So a lot of information there. I want to introduce the final project review. This is week 7. The final project is due at the end of week 8. There's some assignments this week, but also part of the assignment is to start reviewing that final project, so you don't have to do all the heavy lifting in week 8. Your final project is going to have an introduction. Remember the 5 units you've been working on? We're bringing those 5 units in. Between the 5 units and the introduction and the summary, you're going to want some smooth transition, short transition paragraphs, so it's coherent to the reader, and there's a summary. So you get your introduction, your 5 units, transitions between all those, and then your summary. Following APA, make sure you're making edits based upon the feedback I provided you. Carefully use the rubric as a guide. Going back to step 5, APA, appropriate citation. Your final project needs to incorporate the readings and the research, and that needs to be cited appropriately. And when you do that, you have an increased level of credibility, validity, and reliability to your final project. And really, we're doing scholarly work here. It's important that you incorporate all of that. So, specifically, introduction. Unit 1 was local context and navigation. Unit 2 was principles of adult learning and professional learning communities. Unit 3 was local transfer of learning and local assessment plan. Unit 4 was format, scheduling, and staffing. Unit 5 was budget and marketing. You have a summary, and again, you're effectively weaving these units into meaningful whole. You're using transitions. So this is what it looks like from a shell standpoint. You may feel at some point in time you're being redundant. That's good. That means you're being very clear and your plan is aligned and you're crystallizing it for the reader. And you need to write this so that you're assuming the reader, this is the first time they've picked this up. They're not familiar with any of it, although you've been working on it the past 7 or 8 weeks. This final project, the audience would be possibly a school board or administrator reviewing a proposal, and this is how you're going to set it up. Again, pay attention to APA, edits, and citation is important, and again, carefully use the rubric as a guide. So let's talk a little bit about assignments for the 7th class. You're reading chapters 14 and 15 in Caffarella. Do Ford and Fullen, the last part of the book, page 79, the afterword. I'm going to ask you to read a PLC team member again. It's important that we revisit these ideas. That document is an extremely dense document. I've been working on that for the past, I would say, 9-10 years. Every time I read that, a different point jumps out as being really, really important. So I'm going to ask you to read that again. I've also created something I called Mindful Professional Development, incorporating learning theory, PLC tenets, and other ideas regarding Hanover's research with embedded professional development. It's only a 2-page document, but again, very, very dense, thick material, lots of ideas. Spend some time with that. You are going to tour the Advanced School Accreditation Process website. Just get in there, nose around a little bit. In week 8, we'll get a little more specific. I'll share some other documents with you. And I want you to begin your final project, laying that out, the PDP plan, Professional Development Plan. And then you have a case study which I entitled Reluctant Staff. This is not a stretch. When you get involved in teacher leadership, when you get involved in professional development, you will have resistance. Very, very caring, intelligent team members will not want to be part of what you're offering. You have to know how to deal with that and how to get them on board. So we'll deal with that in case study number 2, Reluctant Staff. And then there'll be discussion, questions, debates, participation week number 7 based on some of the reading. I want to thank you for your positive engagement for class number 7. If there's anything I can do, please feel free to contact me directly via email or by phone. We're winding down here. I would encourage you to continue to stay focused, stay up to speed with the pacing, and I look forward to connecting back with you in week 8. Have a great week 7. Thanks.